Hi, so today we have with us Mr. Rahul Mehta from CMAI. Welcome to Bharat Tex 2026, sir. So, first of all, I would like to ask you how has your experience been thus far, and also what do you look forward to taking away from the event, and what are your expectations from the event?
Well, I think this is the third edition of Bharat Tex, and I have been involved with all the three editions. And I must say that the response to this edition has been phenomenal, both in terms of the number of exhibitors and the number of visitors. I'm also very delighted to note, and at least from the feedback, that there is a lot more business transactions happening in this edition. So it is not just merely a show your product and introduce yourself to the buyers, but buyers have actually started now doing and conducting business with the exhibitors. So there's obviously a great advantage of for the exhibitors. Going forward, I'm looking ahead to see more and more business being transacted and Bharat Tex to become less of a showcasing event to an actual business B2B event. I do know that there are certain areas that we need to improve, certainly, and we will keep working towards that as one of the organizing associations of Bharatex. We take the feedback with humility and with open mindedness, but I'm sure the majority of the participants, both visitors as well as exhibitors, are extremely happy. And Bharat Tex is now becoming a must go to event in the international and global textile and apparel industry.
Thank you so much, sir. So, we have two more questions for you. So, first of all, we have talked a lot about technology, AI, and digital integration into the supply chain of the textile industry. However, we truly feel that it is not sufficient until human skills are adapted to use it. So, as per you, what is that most important human centric shift that you believe will define the next decade of clothing manufacturing?
I'm glad you mentioned that ultimately there will be a role for the human hand or the human mind, because ultimately you need somebody to press the button. I think sometimes in the excitement and enthusiasm of artificial intelligence and new technologies, we tend to forget that. Having said that, I think more and more workers, staff, managers, owners, entrepreneurs will have to learn the advantages, learn the new technologies which are available, both in artificial intelligence as well as manufacturing technology, and take advantage of that. And I think that's going to be the most important shift in the human element, that we will have to open our minds now to newer technology and newer intelligence. I think that it will be the most important part, because if you do not adapt, if you do not accept and do not embrace artificial intelligence, the newer technologies, the newer machineries, then I'm afraid you are going to be left out, particularly in the global race. So I think that's the most important aspect, opening up of your human mind, not only to adapt to the technologies and artificial intelligence, but also to make sure that the human brain, the human mind, the creative human mind still remains at the back and the backbone of all creativity, all design, and all manufacturing of textiles and apparel.
Right, sir. Thank you so much for your thoughts on that question. So, our last question to you would be that what are your thoughts on the sustainability aspects of the textile industry, talking about cyclability of the products and also recycling and upcycling? So, at which stage does it lag the most, and which stakeholder in the entire value chain has the sustainability factor been mastered, or let's say ahead of the rest of the parts of the value chain?
So, the first point I'd like to make is that sustainability, being aware of the environmental damages that our industry is causing, the future of maintaining our earth and our planet, for our future generations, I think is something which the industry will have to employ. There are certain advantages of recircularity, of the reusage, the upscaling, whatever. These are all there. And I think to some extent everybody is practicing it, especially within India. As you all know, we don't just discard a garment, we use it for cleaning our shoes, we use it as a duster, nothing else. As I keep mentioning in various forums, we use it as a nada to tie our pajamas. So there is the use of circularity, there is the reuse, but at the same time, in a more formalized fashion, what I think is an opposite trend which is happening is the fast fashion trend. Because the more you go towards fast fashion, the more you go towards buy, use, and discard concept. And that is something that we will need, as the industry as a whole, will need to realize that you cannot just think of your profits of today, and you will have to create products which are longer lasting, which can be reused, and which can sustain the consumer interest for a much longer period. So there are these two contradictory movements. On one side, the need and imperative for sustainability, and on the other side, the trend towards fast fashion. So somewhere along the line, we will need to create the balance. If you talk about the Indian apparel industry today, I think the export sector is a little ahead of the domestic sector, not because of any greater awareness or love for the environment, but because its consumers, the customers, are the Western world customers, and therefore they are the ones who are today insisting on a certain level of sustainability, certain requirements, which the domestic market has still not matured into. So, but I'm sure the domestic bigger players like Tata's and Reliance and Aditya Birla have already started demanding a certain level of minimum standards and requirements. So I'm sure this is also going to grow in the domestic sector. But I don't see any option but to go in for more sustainable practices, whether it is in terms of use of raw materials or processes or the final product.
Thank you so much for your insights, sir. They were really knowledgeable. Thank you so much.